As Sharm el-Sheikh, the city of peace, hosted an international summit, leaders from across the world endorsed the historic plan to end the war on Gaza and chart a new beginning. Sharm el-Sheikh represented a turning point for Gaza and the Palestinian cause at large and paves the way for the next phases of the peace plan, where people of Gaza can finally live without fear of Israeli aggression. The day after in Gaza has begun. But what comes next? How will reconstruction, governance, and security unfold? How will the next phases unfold? And what future awaits Gaza's people? Welcome to Think Tank.
And then, of course, we have the host tonight, and I just want to thank you very much. It was a reason we chose Egypt, because you were very helpful. And very, very helpful. Everybody wanted to have this, but we really thought it was appropriate. And you are a great leader. And he's a fantastic man and a fantastic general, by the way. But he's a great, great president. And I want to thank Egypt and all of your representatives for treating us all so well. Thank you very much.
According to the Washington Post, U.S. President Donald Trump hailed the Gaza ceasefire he brokered as the end of the war and the start of reconstruction. The deal led to the release of Israeli detainees and Palestinian prisoners, but experts warned that the hardest work lies ahead. Key elements of Trump's peace plan, including Hamas' disarmament, Israel's withdrawal, and Gaza's new governing authority, remain unresolved. Rebuilding Gaza, where most of the population is displaced and infrastructure destroyed, is expected to cost over $50 billion. Trump's plan offers only a vague reference to eventual Palestinian statehood, a point of contention for Israel. While Trump expressed optimism that rebuilding will be easiest part, the Post notes that sustaining peace will require continuous pressure and high-level U.S. engagement. According to Qnews, Europe is seeking to reclaim its role in the Middle East peace process after years of marginalization. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu recently described Europe as irrelevant. Its EU leaders now hope to prove otherwise as Gaza enters a new phase of reconstruction. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen announced full EU support for the US brokered peace plan, pledging funding for Gaza's rebuilding and aid delivery. Experts say Europe's contribution could be vital in stabilizing Gaza. Proposals include a dedicated EU recovery and resilience fund embedded without Egyptian reconstruction framework. Yet, the Trump's plan's governance structure, led by a board of peace chaired by Trump, includes no EU representatives, raising doubts about Europe's influence. Whether financial aid alone can restore Europe's relevance remains uncertain.
Sharm el-Sheikh, the city of peace, became the stage for a diplomatic turning point. World leaders gathered, hosted and co-chaired with the United States, and a formal agreement was signed to end the devastating war on Gaza. In a historic moment, leaders from around 30 countries gathered to consolidate lasting peace in Gaza and pledged oversight of a new path forward. During the summit, co-chaired by Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi and US President Donald Trump, the two leaders praised the mediation and cooperation of the signator and pledged to support the comprehensive Gaza peace plan. In Gaza, the war's devastation is raw, where almost the entire strip is left in rubble. Detainees have been exchanged, but the core question is now, how will Gaza be rebuilt, governed, and secured in practice? Egypt has already pledged to lead aid deliveries and act as mediator until peace is finally reached. As President El-Sisi said, the implementation of the plan's next phases leads the way to lasting peace and a two-state solution. As the day after finally arrives, questions remain. How will the newly signed deal survive beyond the summit? And what does the future hold for Gaza?
And for more analysis, we are joined from Paris by Majid Boudin, international law professor, and from Cairo by Mohammed Azzuddin Al-Ahram, managing editor. Welcome to Qnews, sir. And it's a pleasure for both our guests to be with us here in our program Think Tank. We start off with Dr. Boudin. Sir, Sharm el-Sheikh convened a symbolic moment of diplomatic convergence, with 30 nations witnessing the Gaza Accord signing. Now, in terms of impact on Gaza's future.
Well, the Sharm el-Sheikh Peace Summit is a cornerstone, and it's a very important consolidation step of the peace plan proposed by President Trump. And now we have seen that the first step has been achieved, the releasing of the hostages, which is a good thing for both sides, and particularly for the civilians. And now also the supplies of food and water, etc., is starting and continuing in Gaza. So there is a relief for the population. The Sharm el-Sheikh turning point is that now we have to think about the building. The international community have to think about how to rebuild Gaza now from scratch. It's a strip. It's a territory which is completely destroyed. 85%. It means that it's completely destroyed. So how to rebuild it? In the rebuilding phase, the funds will flow because the international community has seen their responsibility in what happened to the Palestinians. They did not ask for nothing. They just received bombs, and they were watching the bombs coming on their heads. And so now, how to rebuild? Normally, we think about rebuilding the infrastructure, but there is something more important in rebuilding a population, people after such devastation, is to rebuild the persons first. We have children, we have young girls and young boys. They have missed school or they are obliged to miss school for more than 2 years. And so they have a gap, they have a loss in education. And this is important to fill up this gap. And this is part of the reconstruction. We cannot rebuild roads and utilities without reconstructing the people. Second point,
yes, Mr. Boudin, but we need roads and we need infrastructure to have schools.
Of course.
And to have hospitals and to have everything. Gaza is in ruin.
Yes, Gaza in ruin, but I mean that sometimes we have seen it in different areas in the world, in different parts of in history, that they can reconstruct schools, and they will start from that point. But this, we have to put it in parallel. We have to rebuild the persons, rebuild the people, rebuild the women and men, in parallel with rebuilding the infrastructure. It doesn't exclude this. It doesn't mean that rebuilding people will be...
Got your point, sir. What else other than schools?
Yes, and also rebuilding the psychological post-trauma, which is very important. And it's done in Europe, in the US. It should be done with the Palestinians, and it's very important. Now we come to the rebuilding of the infrastructure in Gaza. First of all, the roads, they must...
Mr. Boudin, I got your point. I'll ask Mr. Al-Azzuddin and I'll be back again to you. Mr. Al-Azzuddin, welcome and thank you for your time. Sharm el-Sheikh hosted a landmark summit where President al-Sisi welcomed around 30 world leaders to endorse the Gaza peace agreement. Given this diplomatic spectacle, sir, how would you assess Egypt's leverage in steering the implementation in Gaza's next stage?
Thank you for having me on Qnews. Of course, it is a historic day and will stay on our minds for a long time. Stopping the war in Gaza and stopping the genocide and starting a new era of delivering aid and reconstruction and trying to find diplomatic solutions to reach a two-state solution and having a Palestinian statehood is such a victory for the Egyptian diplomacy, and it reflects the leadership and the huge role that President al-Sisi has. And he put so much effort from the very first day since the start of war, and he called a lot to stop the military operations and reaching now the peace that we're in now, returning the detainees and having things go back to the way they were. And then also the most important thing is them talking about a political solution. Of course, the Gaza Strip was destroyed more than 85%, according to reports, to UN reports released today. And of course, this needs so much effort to rebuild and reconstruct, but
Dr. Boudin and the summit leaders joined President Trump and al-Sisi to witness the signing of the agreement to end Gaza war. After this historic momentum, the day after finally is here. So what do you envision for Gaza in terms of reconstruction and governance?
First of all, the matter of the governance is one of the major points of the peace agreement. Now it is signed, so it commits the participants, and this is why it will be followed up by practical measures. And among these measures is to establish a governance, and a lot of parties, including the UN Secretary General, including Egypt, they have asked that this governance will be under the mandate of the UN. This happened in the past. The UN had a mandate, and on Namibia, they had a mandate for Ethiopia on Eritrea. So they have it on Kosovo. They have it on Bosnia. So for a period of time, they could have it for Gaza and the Palestinian territories, including all the territories before the 4th of June 1967. This is important to not cut the link between Gaza and the West Bank and Eastern Jerusalem. And this is important to establish a leadership from the Palestinian population, which are dedicated to the common interest of the Palestinians in general. Now we have to move on very quickly to the infrastructure. How we'll do it? The roads are the most important things. All the utilities, water supply, or electricity, gas supply, and telephone links and internet and all the utilities. And then Gaza needs a port and needs an airport. And they are symbolic of to have an autonomy and to not depend from Israel and to cut the ties of the occupation in Gaza, and we have the sea open, and Israel must we have to obtain the lifting of the control of the access from the sea to Gaza. And the European Union has manifested their interest and their dedication and commitment to participate in the reconstruction of Gaza. And the Arab Gulf countries, they have also done so, and also the US. So
yes, sir. You mentioned the U.S. What does Donald Trump, the U.S. president, have in his court, sir, for the governance and for the reconstruction of Gaza as we talk? Of course, all respect for you mentioning the airport, mentioning the ports, mentioning everything. Gaza needs everything. It's in ruins, sir. It's been 2 years of bombing. What does he have in his courts when it comes to the leadership, technocrat, whatever? What do you think?
I think
your narrative?
Yes,
what does Donald Trump think of?
Donald Trump has a very important tools. If he decides to put $1 or 1% on imports around the world, he will get the funds for Gaza. It's he made a leverage of funds to the U.S. Treasury in few months. He's able to do it by his preferred system is the taxation. He could import this and he could obtain from certain countries to obtain the funding. But we have also the Europeans. We have to remember that the EU has funded Palestine for more than $50 billion around the past years. So they have the capacity to do it. We have the Arab Gulf, they can do it. But we have to not forget something which is important. Even if it could be symbolic, but it's from a legal point of view, who destroyed Gaza? It's Israel who destroyed Gaza. And under international law, Israel is responsible of the damages caused to Gaza. And under international law, they are liable to reconstruct Gaza. They have to pay for it.
Okay, got your point, sir. Mr. Azzeddin, the idea that the day after in Gaza has arrived as a turning point now, and the time of Gaza's reconstruction and political transition takes center stage. What does a post-war transition typically require to avoid the relapse into conflict?
First, complying to all points of the agreement, according to what was agreed upon. The differences or any hindrance, any obstacles, especially if they were on purpose, could lead to hindering or even a full halt of the agreement. And so I don't think that there will be a return to the war in the way that it was, and so this in itself is a huge victory, but returning back to life, and it needs removing the rubbles and then reconstruction of the infrastructure, electricity, water, and so on, and then also starting all the organizations to get back to business. This needs billions of dollars, and it also needs full stability. And so I go back to the first point, which is complying to all points, releasing all detainees, even the deceased, and then also following on the plan from Israel's side. They are famous for breaching the agreements, and so I don't think that the war will return, but there might be obstacles with delivering the humanitarian aid or the reconstruction materials. And so the international law and the leaders and everyone who attended the agreement signing yesterday, they need to pressure and of course the US government also has to play an important role in this.
Dr. Budin, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen pledged EU support for Gaza's reconstruction. Yet Europe is excluded from Trump's Board of Peace. Can the EU gain real influence in post-war Gaza or remain a secondary player in the United States?
Of course, the EU will play a very important role for two reasons. First of all, in proportion of their input, in the financial input. They have to control their financial input. They have to monitor it. They have.
Mr. Budin, sorry to interrupt you here, but why will they put financial input when they're excluded?
They are not excluded. We have Trump had the possibility to put pressure on Netanyahu, and then it was discussions where Egypt, Qatar, and Turkey were able to convince Hamas, and Turkey and Qatar put pressure on Hamas to accept this arrangement. So the Europeans has no tools for that. They have thought about implementing, and they have taken some measures to implement sanctions against Israel, and all this have converged to this arrangement, and this arrangement is positive. And now we are in the second phase, and the second phase is starting from the recognition of the Palestinian state with this movement led by France, and now it's important that we have a lot of countries around the world, and it will be more countries. And when you see when you make analysis of this peace arrangement, you will see that the US has recognized the Palestinian state, what we call a recognition by incorporation. It's not spelled out completely, but it's there, because we are talking about getting Israel from outside the Palestinian territories. And
it's worth to mention, sir, also that the European Union, when France first witnessed and recognized the Palestinian state, many European countries also recognized the Palestinian state, and this became more pressure on, of course, the US President Donald Trump and on Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to stop this war.
Yes, of course, it had initiated a movement, and this movement was very important, and Israel, and particularly the government of Netanyahu, was isolated. And with this isolation, Netanyahu come to this compromise and to accept this agreement without all the international public opinion, without all the pressure, and finally without how Donald Trump has put it to Netanyahu, and even when he called in the Knesset to give him a pardon, all this has come to this agreement, and this agreement is very important. Now the population has relieved from receiving bombs, and the hope is coming back, and hope now must be satisfied by practical things. And these practical acts, I think now when Hamas will give up its military weapons, and the Palestinians need to have a protection, and the protection is provided for by this agreement. And countries in the region, they will protect the Palestinian territory and from any new aggression. And this is why
Okay, I'll leave it there, Mr. Budin, and I'll be back to you again to know where the protection will come exactly from. Mr. Azzeddine, after this historic momentum for peace in Gaza and Sharm el-Sheikh, how do you envision the prospects of establishing a Palestinian state, especially that this momentum was triggered by the UN General Assembly last month, where many states recognized Palestine?
Of course, there is an international convention on the importance of keeping up or staying on the path of a two-state solution and recognizing a Palestinian statehood. But here it is up to the Israeli side. There are a lot of obstacles to stop this. Even with the international convention and with the U.S. government's involvement, I think that there is a positive side that started to show, especially in the Sharm el-Sheikh conference that stopped the war. And so I think that complying to all points of the plan and also pressuring the Israeli side, and in addition to the U.S. government keeping its support, I think that the political path will be easier if all points were implemented, everything that has to do with de-escalating the tensions once and for all, and also taking the necessary measures against the Israeli side. I think that there is so much effort that is being put, and what happened in Sharm el-Sheikh and stopping the war is a start that we can build on in the peace path until we reach a two-state solution and having an independent Palestinian statehood. And so in the upcoming days will be crucial. And I think that with the international pressure and support to reach a final resolution to this will be the focus in the upcoming period. Egypt will always keep up its support to the Palestinian cause and will keep calling for a two-state solution and having an independent Palestinian statehood. In addition to the mediators' efforts to this is a phase, and we hope that it will be the upcoming phase with a little bit of patience and pressuring the other side to reach a just resolution to reach a two-state solution.
Dr. Boudin, looking at the bigger picture, now that the war has ended, how did the events of the past 2 years, including shifting positions of European states, affect the Palestinian cause?
This is, this is a normal consequence. Now the war there is a ceasefire. Trump has said the war has ended. We have to take notes of this, and it's very important. It's very important for the population in Gaza, for the Palestinians, in general, and for the region. And for that, we have to have protection of the population. Israel is withdrawing, so we have to have a peacekeeping force, and the peacekeeping force must be on the borders of Gaza, and they must prevent any attack, and Israel will not dare to attack a peacekeeping force.
So you see that the peace is the protection force, sir?
Yes, the peacekeeping force will be the major protection of the Palestinian population, because we have to prevent any new attack. It doesn't mean that there will be an attack, but in the geostrategy and in the political arena, we have to prevent any possible attack, and this is normal in international relations. So this peacekeeping force must have a confirmation by a UN mandate, whether by the UN Security Council, or by the UN General Assembly, and this must have the countries in the region to participate in this protection of the Palestinian territory for a while, until will emerge a leadership and an authority in the Palestinian territory, with the complete link between Gaza and the West Bank and Eastern Jerusalem. And here, from the infrastructure, the danger is to have Gaza cut from the West Bank, and it's geographically cut. So there is a problem on the infrastructure. This is why the UN is thinking about putting the the budget from 50 million to 20 to 70.
Got your point, sir. Mr. Azzeddin, there's unclear points in Gaza's future administration, whether led by technocrats, a national unity body, or international oversight as laid out in Trump's plan. What governance model could work best in the current political reality, considering, of course, that Dr. Boudin just said that there are peacekeeping forces that will be making sure that security is underway in Gaza?
Of course, the best solution is governing Gaza by Palestinians, or the Palestinian government being in control. Either they were technocratic or something else. But the reality sometimes, and getting out of the latest phase, and Israel's intention to fight the Palestinian resistance made it so hard to any resistance to stay, especially for Hamas and similar groups, and they are calling for calling to eradicate Hamas completely and to not even have a Palestinian government, which is strange. But here we can resolve this through a joint government, like the domestic.
Sir, because I'm out of time, could you please tell me how could we, what is going to be the scenario in 10 seconds, please, because I have to wrap up now. Okay, that was Mohammed Azzeddin Al-Ahram, Managing Editor, Majid Boudin, International Law Professor. Thank you very much for your insights. That brings us to the end of today's episode of Think Tank. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more updates on Q News.